Welcome back to Between Two Racks with the Kilo Crew. On today's episode, we're going to talk group training, gym equipment, minimal equipment, optimal equipment, and everything in between. So, let's kick it. For those of you that don't know, when Kilo was in Huntington Beach, California, we ran our primate group training. So I had the pleasure of being with Stefan and Alexandra when we first developed Kilo in 2016, and all the time and effort that went into developing the programs and the real thought process systems behind how we were going to run our group training. So, Alex, I'm going to kind of turn this over to you, and to all our HB fam, we miss you, we love you. Alex?
I mean, for Steph and I, when we decided that group training is what we wanted to do, is like group training is really great for, building a lot of community. It was really popular. CrossFit did a good job in making that really popular, but we were like, let's do group training, but let's do it the way we would train people, so how to make it better. So, we spent a lot of time just creating, we went through different programs. We started like over 1 million times, but we really wanted to stick to our principles of, our A and B and C series, how to integrate that. And then based on when we finally came up with a system, then we got the equipment so that it would fit with like our systems and stuff.
I have the vivid memory of you two. You might have remembered the photo back in 2016 when I posted it of in the office with the whiteboard. Yep. It was in our apartment building at the time.
And then we had the
big Post-its all around the wall, and you guys had all the exercises you were going to do, the timing of the sessions. So if you want to kind of go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so like we were being like such program design and periodization like fanatics, we wanted to make sure that our group training reflected these things. We did not want those like random programs that changes every day, boot camp, with no rhyme and reason. So we wanted to have properly designed training sessions with periodization. But the big problem is, how do you do periodization in a group setting, knowing, because we did not want to be limited on a business perspective. We didn't want to have like, okay, you can only buy your membership this date and it ends this date. We wanted to be able to have members joining in at any point in time. So how do we do periodization if there's no true timeline?
And then it's also like some people train 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week. So we want to really accommodate all those things.
Yeah. So what we did is we built 2 years worth of training programs for 6 different power racks. So we had 6 different power racks in the gym that could accommodate 4 people at a time. So we had 3 power racks dedicated to lower body. We had 3 power racks dedicated to upper body. So at every hour that the gym was open, we could have either 12 people doing upper, 12 people doing lower. So the training was split in 3 distinct parts: the A series, the B series, and the C series. So the A series, which was the primary multi-joint compound movement, was the common movement that everybody was doing. So a specific group would go in, let's say, power rack 1, 4 people would be squatting. Then the B series, you'd go to the assistance work. So, for example, B2 would be knee flexion. So how we did it is, now you had power rack 1, they were doing lying leg curl. Power rack 2, they were doing standing leg curl. Power rack 3, we're doing kneeling leg curl. So that's why we needed 3 leg curls, because we knew that we could have 3 groups, and we did not want to have like 20 people waiting on one machine. So by doing this, once you're done with the primary movement, that allowed more rest period. So it could basically be one guy squats, the second guy squats, the third guy squats, the fourth guy squats, the first one goes back in, and it was a normal rotation. But then as you went to the B series, we could have 2 people on split squat, for example, 2 people on leg curl. So I go, you go, then they switch. I go, you go, they switch. So it was very organic. It was very natural and very smooth. to go through the process, but we had to make sure that we had the equipment to serve the purpose of that programming. Then they would go to the C series, which was remedial work. So maybe it was hip extension as the C2, for example. So then, because of this, we had one group on an incline back extension. One group might have been doing good morning. Another group might have been doing reverse hyper. So again, we had the equipment to cater to this. So the people were training, the session was smooth, everything was good. Now I can talk about the periodization aspect later. I don't know if...
But before that, we should talk about like the timing of it. So that was one thing that was really hard for us, because when we were thinking about it, some people move a little slower, some people move a little faster. So then we started with a timer for the gym, and in the A series, they had 25 minutes. So what was nice is if you're a beginner and let's say you need more coaching, you could do maybe a little less sets, but you had to finish your A series in 25 minutes. And then if you're more advanced and you can go faster or whatever, then you'll get your 4 or 5 sets that you should get. And then the B series, we had 15 minutes, and then the C series, 10 minutes, right?
Yeah. And then, and for those of you familiar with our programming, you guys know that our B and C series, the intensities used with these exercises are the range is pretty standard. So at one point, it doesn't really matter to us if you're novice, intermediate, or advanced. If you're doing like split squats, you're never going to be doing like 8x2 of split squat. It's just not the nature of the movement. So by the time you got to these exercises, it didn't matter as much. Like everyone would benefit from the prescribed sets and rep prescription, but the big component that was hard to figure out was how do we deal with the A series with that primary movement, that compound lift. So the way we did it is on each power rack, we had like a magnet that would describe the program, but then we had a rep range for the novice, a rep range for the intermediate, and a rep range for the advanced. So that meant that if you've never trained, you're new to the gym, you go into the rack, it's squat, you look at what the rep range for the novice is. So it was like
10 to 12. We were still using rep ranges back then.
Well, yeah, but that was on purpose, though. That was to account for a certain time frame. Yeah. So it was 10 to 12?
10 to 12 for the novice. It was 8 to 10 for the intermediate, and then 6 to 8.
No, it was less than that. It was like 2 to 6 for the advanced. It was like 5 to 8 for the intermediate, and something like 8 to 10.
But I think it's important to say that you had those ranges on the sheets for the people to choose, but most of the time when most of the time when the clients came in,
we told them because everybody thought they were like advanced, and then they saw the lower reps, so they were like, "I want to do 4 reps." I'm like, "No, you get to do 10."
I know, but I don't fully remember specifically the exact range, but it was like a wider than normal window because it accounted for a certain time frame. So the novice, it could be a very linear approach where, okay, it's your first workout, you start at 10 reps, which was the higher end range, and then it really depended. That's the thing. Even though they came in as a group, we would individualize the A series rep prescription to the specific client. So if we noticed that a client would benefit more from linear, we could be like, okay, phase 1, you do 10. Phase 2, you do 9. You do 8. You do 7. Then later on, okay, now you're going to do a stage descending. Rep 1, you do 10. Rep 1 and 2, you do 10. Rep 3 and 4, you do 8. Rep 5 and 6, you do 6. Okay, so it really depended, but the coach would dispatch the rep scheme according to the level and skill of the client within that A series. So although everybody was squatting, like you could have we had a retired NFL player that was like in his mid-30s. He was doing like heavy squats with way fancier rep scheme. And then on the flip side, we had like 60-year-olds that have never really trained, and they were doing 3 to 4 sets of 10 reps. And it always worked. It didn't really matter. And then it got more specific and targeted in the B and C series. But like I said, the nature of the movement did not matter. Like a seated calf raise, you're doing 15 to 20 reps. It doesn't matter that you're beginner or advanced. That's the nature of the movement. So it really worked out well that way.
Yeah.
How did you handle getting people started when they first came into the gym with us?
In terms of
Coaching for the first session they come in?
I mean, since we were just starting off, what was nice is that it's not like we had a big rush of people. So I was able to spend Mitch, a little shout out to Mitch. Mitch was there for the first time. So you just had, so it was almost like one-on-one when I started off with the people. So I was able to really coach them up, really teach them how to read the program, how to, like, I would help them with their weight selection, but I was also I was trying to teach them because I wanted them to be independent individually. So as we continued to grow, I was able to maybe spend a little less time with the people who'd been with us for a while, and then spend a little bit more time with the new people, and then coach them up. So by the end, like, you would someone could walk in and they're like, "Oh, all your clients know what they're doing," and I'm like, "Yeah, I spent a lot of time, like, really kind of coaching them up," and it was just just teaching them, like, not being afraid to show them how to do it on their own, so that it could be a skill that they would have.
And what was cool too is in 2018, once we moved on to train heroic, then it was even easier because so like easy. the most advanced that had been with us for a while, like they didn't even need to ask you. Like, they would just go and click on the video as a refresher. Oh, this movement. And they would do it on their own while Alex was spending time with the full-blown beginner.
Yeah, I think that's important to note. When we started in 2017 and opened Kilo, we had the magnets on the power rack, so they all knew, like, each power rack had the program. And then after that, we made little notebooks and gave them to our clients where they would track their reps and their weight. And it was all blank. So basically it was just like a blank sheet where they would write what the exercise was, because they could be in any rack at any given point. Yep. And then they just tracked their weight and their reps. And then, like you mentioned, in 2018, we moved over to Train Heroic. So once someone was a client with us, then they were tracking everything with the app. So then it was easy to get their history. They had everything pulled up. So it even removed us even more from having to really oversee each and every client, because they were coached up and then they had their history in Train Heroic.
And by the way, before we keep on going, I just had like a flash of the magnet. The rep range, for those of you who care, the novice was 6 to 10. The intermediate was 4 to 8. Yeah. The advanced was 2 to 6.
Yeah. Yeah. But that was a big thing, though. They were always like, "No, they wanted to do earn that. It. You needed to earn the low reps." Yeah.
Porrick, I know you ran small group training in your facility in Ireland as well. How did you handle that?
So I had a completely different system. I was way more on the side of semi-private personal training. Yep. So the max group I would have had was 6 people, and everyone had an individual program. So it was always going to have to take into account that they were coming on certain days and the programs weren't going to overlap, and there was too much stress on one piece of equipment, but it was all individualized. And the only exception to that was when 2 people wanted to train together, wanted the same program because of the camaraderie side of things. So that there was fine, like there was no problem at all. But as a general, it was individualized between 6 people, all with their own goal. Anyone could start at any time, and I just ran it. So it was definitely not as good a business model for growth purposes, like the way you set up, but it was
higher individualization
for the client. And since I was dealing with a lot smaller of a market, I couldn't deal with, I was never going to have huge numbers coming through the door, and I was never going to be able to have a lot of turnover. So there had to be a lot of individualization to maintain as much people as possible. But then on the flip side, when I dealt in team settings, I dealt with somewhat similar to you set up with the baseball team. Yep. In terms of when I screened everyone, they get grouped into what their deficit was, and then there was 3 to 4 different groups based on that, and that had to be ran slightly more military operation style, with everyone's going to be moving from this station to this station, and while they're moving here, the people who are resting are moving up. So that's a different story altogether, but that's nearly too complicated to try and explain because you have to know what exactly piece of equipment people are dealing with.
And I think that it really depends on where you are as a coach and a personal trainer and what you're looking to do. Like if you own a facility in a business, implementing a group training for certain hours is very beneficial. But then as we strongly believe in personalized programming, I do think that there is power in the small semi-private where it is individualized programming and you're working on those kind of on like a consultation basis, getting them started, but then they have blocks where they come in and they're executing their individualized programs. And then as a coach, it's just kind of oversight during those hours.
But I will say, though, like for having done both in my career, like when we started Kilo, Alex and I had over 30,000 hours of one-on-one personal training under our belt. Now Alex has shattered this, but that was it at the time, right? So like we had the experience doing it. We're kind of fed up with it. We were ready for a new challenge, and the group training was a really cool challenge. But what I want to say, though, I find that a lot of people hide behind a one-on-one personalized coaching as this is the best way to get results because it's highly individualized, and I agree. But one thing that, in my opinion, is better with group training, and we've seen it, is sometimes the problem with one-on-one, even though it's well-intended, is especially when you're like Alex and I and you've been training people 3-4 times a week for years and years and years, you get to a point where there's so much comfort in that relationship that it becomes almost more, let's go chill with my trainer at the gym today, and they start talking about their family issues and this and this and that, and it's pulling away from the training. So now you're spending all this time writing the most perfectly individualized training program, but the application of the program is not that great because the intensity is not there. What I liked in Huntington Beach about the group training is now, because there's more people to take care of, there's always new clients. I didn't have the time to go and chit-chat and talk about useless stuff with the clients. I needed to go and take care of the people who actually needed the help in the training program. So that left the other clients with more focus and drive on their training. So although the training program per se might not have been as individualized, oftentimes their intent now started to become a little bit better. And there's always the competitive environment. You don't want to look a certain way in front of other people. You want to impress other people. You want to impress the new trainees, the new clients coming in. So people put a little bit more effort. So they also want to get the attention of Alex. If Alex is spending time with so-and-so, the other one's, hey, what about me? Look at my squat. Look what I'm doing in my squat. Come and see me.
They're like children.
So my point with this is there's like advantages and disadvantages to both. Of course, like the ultimate, of course, if you're training the elite would be the one-on-one environment. But I do believe that there's a lot of upside to group training, although the training program design might not be as individualized as you want.
Well, I think that comes into play as a business owner. It's kind of having the options so you can find the best option for the specific client, whether that be one-to-one training, whether it be semi-private or larger group training.
We had a few people who did one-on, not a whole lot, but we had a few people even in HB.
But the competitiveness can be huge. Yeah. Like this must be going back to 2017 at this stage. I had a group of guys coming in, mostly body comp orientated goals, nothing really strength orientated. 5 out of 6 of them, great results, no problem at all. The 6th one was very he had a corporate lifestyle, is probably the nicest way to put it, and was a lot of meeting and greeting clients and lunches and dinners, and all that bullshit. So, but finally, between all the other guys, they decided, all right, we're going to make a bet that you can't lose. It was a stone, so that doesn't mean anything to the American audience here.
14 pounds.
14 pounds.
Such a weird number.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
And he had 8 weeks to do it. And so once there's a bet involved, he blasted through it. So like the competitiveness and getting the camaraderie can really make a huge difference to results long term.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, even going back to when the three of us did our 12-week hypertrophy block, I know for me, that wasn't an individualized program. We were all doing the same exact program together, but there was a huge impact for me where I was like, I got to keep up with the boys. I got to grind. I have to win. I want to put on the most muscle. So it's
like, when do you say that this was, because that was April 2022, do you feel that this was your basically trigger to catapult all the success you've had in the last 2 years?
Yeah, 100%, because I packed on so much muscle in those 12 weeks of training. And it was the first time ever I had done a true 12-week hypertrophy block. And it was almost going to be that the boys were going to do a 12-week hypertrophy block and I was going to do a 12-week fat loss block.
She says this to me and I'm like, you always talk about wanting muscle. Why aren't you doing the hypertrophy too? And it was like a light bulb, right?
My eyes lit up and I was like, let's fucking go. So I did the 12-week with you guys, and I think it was because, I mean, I was focusing on hitting my protein so much. I was focusing on recovery. I was focusing on my post-workout, what I was eating before. Everything's clicked in for me. And then, I mean, what was it? I know you guys are good at remembering numbers. How much muscle did I put on?
7 pounds of skeletal muscle mass.
Yeah, in the 12 weeks. I was a beefcake.
And that's the thing, right? So that was on the InBody 570. So we're not even talking about lean body mass. 7 pounds of straight up skeletal muscle mass. Yeah. That's pretty impressive.
Those are an intense 12 weeks.
Well, now that I'm back, I feel like we need to do another one.
Not joining that.
Come on.
Nope. Like Alex has like that myostatin gene.
No one wants to go up against you, Alex.
Come on.
Alex, tell your story of the prepping for the 2001 North Americans, IFBB North Americans, and how you had to prep for it.
Yeah. So when I started just back up just a little bit. When I started competing in fitness, my first competition, I'd never done weight training ever. But I still was really muscular. But everyone was like, "Oh, you should." I had a gymnastics background. They're like, "You should do it. You'll be really good at it." So I start weight training. So it was fun. I'd never done it before. And then I show up to the competition. And I was like, bam! I was super jacked. And they were like, you're a little too big for fitness. You should do bodybuilding, which I wasn't interested in doing bodybuilding. So then for the next few years, basically, I did very, very little weight training and did a lot of cardio. Ugh. And yeah, it was brutal. It was not fun. And then in 2001, I qualified for the North American Championships. So then I was like, all right, I'm going all in. I need to. So I'm not saying this is something we should do. I've learned from my mistakes. But I was the 6 weeks before, I was still a little too muscular. So for 6 weeks before the competition, I did no weight training, and I was doing 6 hours of cardio a day. So I would do 2 hours in the morning, straight up when I'd wake up, 2 hours during the day, and then 2 hours at night. And I came in third. But what was crazy is then finally the girl who won, she was super jacked. And
yeah, she was the most muscular of the whole bunch.
Yeah, see, that's the problem with that, with those competitions. You never know who's judging you. So they like a more muscular. I mean, I was still muscular, but yeah. That's why I still have trouble doing cardio. I have a PTSD. I need to start doing cardio.
Well, because then you can. So that was your last. That was 2001, and then you competed again in 2011 in Kansas. 2011 in Kansas City, and you didn't really do cardio for that one.
No, I did. I did a little bit.
But it was more like a modified strongman conditioning
and sprints and stuff. But then I didn't care about winning. I mean, you always want to win, but like I was just trying to do it healthy. Because the thing is like people love to tell stories about like you got to a certain goal, but then after 2001, after having lost all that muscle, I rebounded bad. Like I gained like 30, 40 pounds in like 3 months, and my metabolism was all messed up. It took a few years to recover from that.
I think it took 2 years
to find
really reestablish it.
Yeah, it was not good. Yeah. No bueno.
Nope.
I'm going to guide us back into
group training.
So I kind of wanted to go into, because I know we briefly touched on it in terms of we wrote all of the programs. What was the total amount of programs?
It was
300.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like...
We still have those magnets.
We still have those magnets, yeah. And they're so heavy.
Yep.
It's like 30 pounds of magnets.
But I wanted to, so we wrote the programs and then we placed our equipment order. And obviously not everyone can do that because some of you already have your facilities and now you're looking to implement group training into it. So I want to kind of talk about what we view as minimal equipment required and then get into what we view as optimal equipment. So Porrick, because I know your facility was a little bit more skin and bones compared to ours.
Yep.
So for you, what would you say would be minimal equipment?
Minimal equipment was some sort of squat rack setup. So I had a 3-bay rig. So very simple. If you're going to deal with groups, you definitely want more than one place to squat, do bench press, all the compound lifts. Then you don't need a lot of barbells, but you need a few. You need at least one for each rack, and then a specialty bar is great for variation's sake. I had 2 glute hams, which is great because that at least doubles up as a horizontal back extension. I had jerk boxes, which, while that sounds like a very unnecessary thing, it became brilliant for step-up platforms, front foot elevate split squats. I had a functional trainer, so that could do my cable rows, the pull downs, any sort of cable movements you want to do. One thing if you're choosing just one cable system, you have to play the game between something that's going to be heavy enough that people can do rows and pull downs, and also something that goes light enough that you can do your remedial work. So some people mess that up and have these really heavy stacks, and then they go to do a lot of raise and it doesn't budge. That was the main things in it. Strongman equipment, dumbbells, some cardio equipment, nothing crazy. But to me, as long as you have a place that you can comfortably do your primary exercises, dumbbells that is going to facilitate your remedials and assistance work, you don't need an awful lot. Then obviously one incline bench per rack as well. So if you need 3 people doing uppers at once, it's no problem.
And Porrick, what was the square meter of the
square meters
or square footage?
Like 1,800.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like probably half the size of the gym in there.
Okay.
Ish.
And then the 6 people, it was smooth, no issues.
No issues. Like at one stage when I had teams, the most I ever had trained at once was 33.
Wow.
That's
a lot.
That was a nightmare.
That
When
didn't 24 happen. Here. Yeah. It's like busy.
That was like a one-off request from a team that was traveling from a couple hours away. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't a normal thing. Normally when I did teams, I kept it below 20, aiming for 15. 16 because at least I could do, 15 because it was 5 per rack. And then you had to add in like a filler exercise just to keep the flow. But that was the norm when I went for teams. But it's never ideal when you're doing that many people to one coach.
Yeah, because that was only you.
Most of the time, yeah. The time I had 33 in, I had a little help because you can't watch 33 people.
That's always nice in HB, like just because our clients got to know the system so well, they would coach each other. Yeah. I mean, some of them were annoying about it, but we won't name names or anything. But yeah, like people, they hold each other accountable, and they're like, "Oh, don't let her see you do it that way." Mark.
Steph, I know everyone always thinks that you always want all of the equipment, but obviously we don't have all of the equipment that even in our facility. But in terms of you, when people consult with you, I know you've had this consult a few times, and they say, what's the minimal equipment required for my gym, or what should I absolutely get? What do you normally say?
I mean, I don't know if we can count the power rack, but I think that that's essential, especially like if you go with Atlantis, the Polygon rack, simply because there's the safety pin and the extra pin to do isometric work. That to me is a what's the expression? A non-negotiable.
Okay,
because the whole makeshift like isometric stuff and I believe a squat rack is a little bit of a waste of money. I don't see why you would buy that. So go with a full-blown power rack. Then I think that a lying leg curl is essential if you're really serious about truly developing a properly balanced body.
I think this is a big one because we hear from students all the time how they're always, if they work at a gym, they're always trying to convince their people.
Yeah, but
give us the spiel, Steph.
I don't know why. I really don't know why. But there's something. Maybe it's CrossFit, but there's something that somehow a lot of coaches think that the knee flexion aspect of the hamstring is absolutely not important, but it is. For many reasons, we're not going to go in there in this podcast, but it is important. And the problem is if you're doing knee flexion with the Swiss ball or a Sorinex roller for the rest of your life, you're greatly limiting your potential. And then Gen Pop especially, most of them are going to tear up a muscle if they go on a glute ham or even worse, a Nordic curl. So you need that lying leg curl. Plus, if you have a selectorized lying leg curl, it's properly built. You have the cam so that you can have a more even overload of the strength curve in knee flexion. So that to me is a non-negotiable, and the lying leg curl is the most versatile. So that's why I would go with that one. I think an incline back extension is highly important. I do think that some form of leg machine as a finisher or squat replacement is very important. Like, so there's a bunch. People like the hack squat. I'm not as much of a fan of that one. The pendulum is great. My personal favorite, people know, it's the incline leg press. I just love it. I love the versatility of it because it opens it opens you for many foot position, unilateral, bilateral. You can do calf work on it. It's easy to drive a ton of volume. I just love it. I think a seated calf raise is super important because the standing calf raise you can use like a stair, a box, a wedge, whatever. But the seated is a huge pain in the ass to try to replicate if you don't have the machine. And people underestimate the importance of training the soleus for performance purposes, but even for health. So seated calf raise. And then some form of pulley system so you can do rows and pull downs and other types of movement. The functional trainer is a good piece in the sense that it requires it doesn't require a lot of space, so the carbon footprint is small. But the issue I have with this is the versatility is a little limited once you have like stronger clients. Because a lot of these pulley systems are a little too light for rows or pull downs. Even tricep work, it gets on the lighter side. So it's really cool for like rotator cuff work or bicep work or neck work and all that kind of stuff. But for those big multi-joint upper body movements, it gets a little limiting. But at least it's a good minimum.
And then I, just as a small, not necessarily like big gym equipment, I do think it's really important to have the wedges, multiple wedges for everyone, to have, like you mentioned, something for step up, so different step up platforms. And I know with us, we had that every single power rack had a step up platform, had a wedge, had the what is it, the step, like the side step up, basically, that we have for every power rack. So I think those are important, and also different grips. Attachments for all the seated rows and everything.
Yes, and then of course dumbbells, but I would not go the route of those fancy, overly expensive dumbbells with a thick rotating implement. In my humble opinion, it's a complete waste.
That was such a hard thing for the women, especially, well, even the men, but just holding on to the dumbbells, right? You're trying to do split squats, but it's a thick grip, so then you're limited by your grip. So I feel like just a standard dumbbell is always the better choice. And if you want, you can add the thick grip to it, but...
Yeah, like having 2-inch thick grip dumbbells for especially if you're in a small, limited equipment studio gyms where you don't have a lot of machines or pulley equipment. So it means that you will be using dumbbells for split squats, for RDLs, for rows, for presses, for curls, for everything. Which now, if you're smaller, like your grip will be highly limited, which will limit the potential of the rest of your body. But even for bigger guys, because that's the thing. Like in St. Louis, when we worked there, we had Evenco dumbbells standard grip. Well, it was 35 millimeters, so it's just slightly more than the standard 29, 30 millimeter. But that's what we had, and it was comfortable, liked it, whatever. But then when we moved to work with Charles Poliquin at the Poliquin Center, he had the Watson dumbbells, the 2-inch thick grip, so I was super excited. But after 3 months of training there, I talked to the other coaches that were there, and they're all big dudes. Like I was the small, like at 220, I was the smallest. And I asked them, what do you guys think of those Watson dumbbells? And none of them liked them. Why? Because we all had the exact same issues. Crazy pain in the wrist and the elbows. Why? Because we were doing everything with this. Tricep extension with 2-inch. So it was just too much. Too much of a good thing, sometimes a problem. And then you're paying for the rotating handles, but to be quite honest, the rotating handles only impacts curls.
Which, we know why that was important.
But
Charles loved
but honestly, it's great. But on presses, it does nothing. On rows, it does nothing. It really is just on curls. So to me, it's you're going to spend 8 to 12 times more for a piece of equipment that needs to be basic at best. Like there's nothing magical about a dumbbell.
Well, I think it would be even a higher priority to have duplicates of the lighter dumbbells in a lot of facilities, like having multiple sets of the 5s, 10s, 15s, 20s.
Smaller ones especially. Yep.
And you can also then spend, because you're still not going to spend as much money getting smaller increments. Yep. So having the duplicates of the dumbbells that are most frequently used and then smaller increments to make it easier to progress.
But I get it, though. Like one last thing, I get it, because me too, if I was a younger coach and I'm opening up my first gym and I wanted to look great, I would want to have these Watson or a VA7 or Black Iron, because they look so sharp. And I remember one of our students, we consulted. He was opening up his gym, consulted. I told him, do not buy these dumbbells. It's not worth it. Do not. But he bought the dumbbells anyway.
How much did he spend?
Over $100,000.
That's crazy.
He bought the dumbbells. And now we talked over the phone like 2 months ago, and he's opening up a second facility. And guess what? The first thing he told me, it's like, Steph, I'm not buying these dumbbells again. It was a waste of money. I'm going to go with the Evenco.
Yeah, because the Evenco is what, 10% of that? It was like 10, 15,000 for the set?
Yeah, so for example, the set that we have, so we have 5 to 150, and we have 2.5 increment up to 55, and we have doubles up to 15. That set at the time in 2016 from Evenco Barbell was $10,000. That my quote from Black Iron Strength for the exact same set was $115,000.
We're like, nah, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just dumbbells.
From Watson, it was $80,000, and VA7 did not exist at the time, but I'm assuming it would have been close to that. So $10,000 versus $100,000,
Yeah.
easy decision for a dumbbell.
Yeah.
But the thick grip dumbbell is such a weird concept to me because like fat grips have been around for over 10 years at this stage. So the fact that you could have both with the purchase of a $30 set of fat grips just makes no sense that I'm going to go all in on all my dumbbells being thick grip.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's also too much.
Yeah,
It's
way
just
too
so
much.
bad.
It's way too much strain, and it's too limiting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's where like people are like, yeah, but you get a lot stronger faster when you use the fat grip. But not really. Like what they were comparing is if you go back to a normal dumbbell, then you'll use a lot more weight. But that's just because you can hold on to it. So you're not necessarily stronger. You're just now you can like,
Express your strength.
Yeah, you can hold the dumbbell that like for a longer period of time that has a regular grip.
Yeah, but also like the study that you're referring to that showed that you got stronger quicker was done in a seated dumbbell curl with a supinated grip. Okay, because would you get stronger quicker with thick grip on split squat?
Yeah, no, exactly.
No, because the grip would be a limiting factor.
Exactly.
Even rows.
Yeah.
On rows.
Yeah.
And then guess what? Okay, rows. Let's talk about rows with a thick grip. Honestly, so you're rowing with the thick grip. The first thing that's going to start fatiguing will not be the upper back, will not be the bicep. It's going to be the forearm. So now, as you start fatiguing, and then you need a little break in that grip, you're in that stretched position, you just relax that grip half of a second.
Bam.
Guess what happens? Then boom, all the load into the elbow. You just strain your elbow because of that limiting factor from the grip. So to me, I've seen more downside being in a gym with thick grip than I've seen upsides.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Sure.
So we talked about what minimal equipment now, optimal equipment. So in terms of, okay, now someone has the funds or they've developed their facility enough where then they're looking to add additional pieces, what would you guys kind of first go towards in terms of what else to get?
We know you guys want a leg extension.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's coming. When that step up by the garage door is going to get moved. The leg extension
But my only problem, and Pork knows it, is I'm so obsessed about having like a cleanly laid out space that I'm struggling to figure out where it would fit.
Hold on, that's okay. We're gonna pause on where our leg extension is gonna go because that was something I wanted to touch on with this. So in terms of you guys writing all the programs for the group training, there was also a huge amount of thought process that goes into the layout of facilities. Mm-hmm. Even when we relocated from California to Florida, I'm spoiled. I've basically always trained in very well laid out, highly equipped gyms. And then when I go into other facilities that might not necessarily be laid out, I do notice how much it impacts how smooth I can get through a session and even just headspace of how you feel going into a facility. So I want to talk about how you view layout of a gym, because even in HB and then here, it's different, but it's also very similar. But we spent a lot of time in thinking about where the equipment is placed for sessions.
Well, I mean, whatever your gym is, I think you need to lay out the gym so it fits the structure of your training program. So if you're one of those who you do full body sessions and you have 15 exercises per session, your layout might be different than my layout. Like we tend to program upper, lower. So I don't want to have like my lower body mixed in with my upper because it just disrupts the flow. So that's one thing. And then I like to have like the posterior chain all grouped together, the quad machines all grouped together, the rowing machine, the calf machines all grouped together. I want to have the dumbbells close to the bench because we use the dumbbells a little bit more with upper body work. I want room around the power rack so you can do like lunges, deadlift, walking lunges, RDLs outside of the rack and have the room for it. So these are the big criterias, but in all honesty, it really depends on your style of training.
And the space you have, obviously. But that is something, like, for those of you who are looking to open a facility, like, really think about all of these factors when you're looking around for a space.
Yeah, when we moved to Cali, at first, we were so emotional with our decision making, so we're so happy it didn't work out. But
we wanted to be on the beach.
but the second facility we looked at was going to be on the second floor of a newly constructed,
like an octagon.
It was like a circle.
strip mall type of thing, and the room was like an hexagon or something like that. So we would have lost so much space.
But wait, remember, we wanted a mezzanine. We're like, oh, we could put stuff up on the mezzanine.
Well, it's not we wanted to, but we had no choice because the room was so weird.
I mean, you got to take out, and we've learned, but the emotions have to get kind of thrown out. You really have to go back to being
but it worked out well because remember the reason why we couldn't have this location was because the engineer says that it couldn't withstand the load of the equipment. Like, oh, okay.
This is just random, but I think it's an important part to consider because a lot of people end up having facilities that are smaller. I know a lot of people do want the turf space. So we have a very small turf space here compared to what we had in Huntington Beach. Honestly, I was kind of one of the ones I was like, no, we're still doing it. We love having that turf space. I think it's good for warm up. You still want it for the conditioning, which I do want to touch on conditioning as well. But this is a small little detail, but we've realized how big of a difference it makes. There's always stuff you have in the gym, all the extra stuff, all the straps, the bands, the chains, the ab roller, the foam rollers, all the random attachments. And those things can make a gym very messy. But what we've realized
1 foot.
If you just we left 1 foot of space next to the turf from the wall, and it's just this organized area to keep all of those random things. So even that it's not necessarily organized, it stays pretty organized. You know where all of those things are. And it's just up against the wall. The next
step is getting Pops to make like a 2 foot, like a shelf.
Pops, I know you're watching this.
Yep, we need extra space, so we just need 1 foot shelf all along so we can put more stuff.
But I did, so going back into, because I think conditioning is a big part for these group trainings. I know ours, we ran twice a week on Wednesday, well, more than twice a week, but we always had them on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And we did our modified strongmen conditioning workouts. So in terms of equipment for those sessions, what would you guys recommend? Did you have anything?
Nothing
crazy, but it's very similar. Probably just not as extensive. But like sandbags, heavy med balls, prowler, sled.
The tank is great. I know you didn't have the tank.
The tank is great. It's very versatile.
Do you have ropes?
I had ropes, trying to think what else. Like, I did sometimes work in conventional cardio equipment, like rower and bikes. I had tires outside. Very, very, very rarely used it.
One of those things, again, that looks cool, is fun, but not necessarily you don't need it.
The risk-reward is...
The risk-reward with general pop is not really there. I was very lucky to live beside a hill, so we could do hill sprints. There's no hills in Florida.
Nope. No hills.
Steph, anything else for conditioning?
One thing important to consider is buy strongman equipment that's easy to load. That's really important. If you're in group and you need to make quick changes in load, it needs to be easy. For example, our farmer's handle, I purposely bought the one that we have because they're vertically loaded pins. So it's much quicker, much easier. Our yoke, it's vertically loaded as well. So it's quick and easy. You don't need collars and nothing like that. Yeah. So I think that's an important thing. That's why the tank is so cool. It's like a flip of a switch. It's that easy.
One thing to take into consideration is med balls and sandbags. If you're going to buy those sort of things, they are going to break. So don't spend a ton of money on it. Buy a good quality one, but at some stage, that type of equipment takes a battering is going to break.
That's why Steph never wanted sandbags.
Yep.
He was like, no. They might break in the gym.
They will break in the gym.
Anything that dirties up my space, it's a no-go. That's why people are always blown away that I don't have chalk. Well, stop sweating
yes,
from
we
your
know
hands.
that liquid chalk exists, but we just get tough.
Oh, it still gets dirty. It still goes everywhere.
Yeah.
I do think it's really cool looking back on what we were able to build in Huntington Beach. And then I think the most powerful thing was how we, and especially you, Alex, were able to empower all our clients to fall in love with strength training and then continue on their own. So most of
them are
the majority of our clients from California now train online with us using the Train Heroic app, but they're confident enough to find a gym and do the programming on their own. And I think that's
cool.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
And
then some of them have still trained together. They still set up their times together. They're friends. They hang out. So it's very cool.
Do we have anything else we want to touch on in terms of group training?
Well, one of the cool things about group training on a business aspect is, since it's such a lower cost of buy-in for the clients, it opens your business up to such a bigger range of people, because there's not very many people who are going to commit to a lot of one-to-one personal training sessions every week for an extended period of time. But if they're getting a full week training for the price of one personal training session, and they're doing 4 to 6 trainings if you're doing conditioning as well, like it just makes it far more accessible for a far longer time. So that's huge. And then if a client moves away and you lose a client, all of a sudden you're not losing 4 hours a week. You're losing one person out of a group. So it's not as big a hit in your business, and it's an easier client to replace. So like just in business aspect, it can be very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And even with going back to the individualization of the group training, it's still there, obviously a far lower standard of it. But in terms of what you used to do when people would get started, it was our primate group training. So we had the primary movements in the A series. And basically what you did is now what we teach in the MAP assessment course. Okay, their assessment was, because they're coming in for a $30 group training session, so it's not like you're running them through a full lengthy assessment. You're kind of watching them in the primary movements and making the adjustments on the fly on the floor. So basically what we teach in the MAP assessment course is what you do with those primary movements with it.
And it fits in pretty easily. So even if you have one person who's doing let's say a back squat, and they're proficient, like that ex-NFL player is lifting 300 pounds, 400 pounds, but then you have someone who's never done a squat before and they're doing a 10-pound bar, or they're doing goblet squats.
Which is important for all of you, because we almost missed that one. Get the training bars.
We did miss it initially. We were like, not everyone can lift 45 pounds.
Yeah, like the overhead press was
we forgot about
that.
Then we had a ladies training, not ladies training bar, ladies Olympic lifting bar. So it's slightly thinner diameter. Made a huge difference for the girls for deadlifting. They loved it.
Yeah,
that's true. Very good. That was a fun one, guys. Okay, before we wrap up this episode of Between Two Racks, I did want to mention it is the last call for the final sports performance seminar of 2024. Obviously, we will be having the sports performance seminar again 2025, but this is the last one of this year. It is June 7th to the 9th, and it is the last call ever. We mentioned this a couple episodes ago, of the live Speed Strength Intensive June 13th to the 14th, and the Maximal Strength Intensive June 15th to the 16th. So these two will be the final times we are hosting these in-person live seminars. Steph, I know all 3 of these courses are some of your absolute favorite courses to teach right now. Sports performance, we know why that's your favorite, but I kind of wanted you to dive in a little bit why Speed Strength and Maximal Strength are some of your favorite courses.
Yeah, so max strength to me, like I love teaching that course because I like to remind people of Schmidt-Bleicher's saying of strength is the mother of all quality. So I think it's really important to emphasize maximal strength and understand how much is needed for optimal performance. But I like to go into deeper into the application of training methods and periodization to optimize the outcome of maximal strength. So there are some specificities in loading and techniques and rep schemes that I think makes a big difference that people don't account for. So I do like to dig a little deeper with that. So for people to truly understand what's needed for maximal strength, and then speed strength. Speed strength, I really like that course simply because early in my career, the whole power element to training was my biggest limiting factor. It was not something that was really huge in my upbringing in strength training. So this is something that I personally made it a goal of mine to learn as much as I can on power and speed strength. And I've been studying this pretty hard for at least the last 10 years now. So to me, it's a lot of fun to explain to people my understanding of speed strength, how I like to apply it in the context of our periodization, in the context of our model, and how you can get results and power development using or fine-tuning the speed strength. And I do because like I tell people all the time, when you start digging deep into the study of power in general, it's extremely confusing and it's very all over the place. So what I try to do with our education is to bring it down to its most simplest form, and I try to make sure that people understand how we can maximize it.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to host all of you that are already registered for next month's courses. If you're not already, it's not too late to join us. And one final shout out to all our family in Huntington Beach that kept us going back there. We love you. We miss you. We're still here for you.
Unit.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, that was good.
Kelsey's crying.
See you next time, fam.